just being in different classes of people and just like the nuances of behavior between classes of people. We don't talk about that much, but
yeah.
I mean, I fucking felt it in grad school, dude. Like,
but you're on the other end of it, whereas
right?
the main character in this story.
I'm like coming from coming from strip clubs and jail and Lake Worth and all of that, and just how people communicate in that world.
Yeah. I don't know how to hold a fork. So I just look like an idiot.
I know how to walk upright.
Yeah, I know. Like,
yeah.
Posture thing was a problem.
So you're saying that you were more like the guy that he worked for, that worked under him.
100%.
You felt like that, like whereas you had a little self-conscious about having someone of that stature come to the party and everything.
I mean, well, here's the other great thing about the story is, they only accepted him because he was higher class. Like, if the opposite situation had arisen, they would just find some way to like, you probably just won't even get through the door most of the time.
Of course, yeah.
The three of us, besides grad school, the three of us, like, go try to have dinner with the Bidens or whatever the fuck, or the Clintons or the Trumps or Bushes or the Obamas or any of these dynasty
I'll
families,
be in the
like,
bushes.
yeah,
I'll be outside in the bushes.
You'll be in the bushes outside, and it's so hard on both ends, I guess, to just communicate simple things, because we think about that a lot too, like different, how hard it is. I mean, me and Dan teach EAP, John, which is like, we don't teach it, we tutor it, but you're meeting these people who are coming from different countries, essentially. Haiti, Honduras, China, the Middle East, Lebanon, all kinds of stuff, and just the different Jamaica, just the cultural shock of trying to communicate simple things is so bizarre, but that's just one layer of it. Class is another layer, I guess, is my point. I didn't mean to rush everything, by the way. We can talk about whatever the fuck. We don't have to jump into the book.
No, it's cool.
I'm just saying this. I just read it, so like, I was just like, man, this is it's like looking at myself in grad school, dude.
Well, you gotta
situations reversed, but
yeah, you gotta respect the. I like that you're giving us the perspective of, you've been jolted a bit. Just got over it, and
like, there's this party I went to, and I was so excited that one of my friends showed up. This guy named Chris, and we're at a bar, and I'd already been drinking. Chris just showed up, and I'm already hammered. And I like grab Chris by the back of his head, and I kind of like push his head into mine, and I'm like, "We're doing a fucking shot."
I wasn't far off, because I went to a few grad parties, and I always thought I was like, jovial, and I added life to the party by getting like drunk and not being a weirdo and just being like friendly and stuff. But I come to find out years later, one of my buddies is like, "Dude, you're a real handsy in grad school." And I'm like, handsy?
Oh, wow.
I guess I grabbed people like Craig and like, let's drink, let's do a shot.
Handsy. Wow.
Probably something John learned from me.
Big words, man. That's big action. It's funny, man. It's like I read the story. You guys, you're going to the party, but for me, it's like, with Sonny's Blues, it's a story I have to put it through my engine to make sure all the parts work again. Like Sonny's Blues is like almost inspiring for the struggling artist, and I read that and it kind of puts me in place. But this story too, like, lets me know, that to be authentic. There's something about this story that I love. For me, it's just about people putting on airs, trying to, and it's such a relevant story because like in the age of social media, we try to put out personas that we are like a certain way. We want to we try to like manicure these scenarios to make us look better, but we end up making it. But we don't realize that our human nature, like destroys that. Like there's like someone saying that they're, oh yeah, I'm so, I'm very progressive. Oh, I love, I want to go to the questionable neighborhoods and help people, but they're the first people that they hold their purse when they cross the street. So it's not like they're maybe putting out with effort. They're putting out this persona that they're like a humanitarian, but their actions speak differently. And this is like, don't
again,
ever.
that what you just said is very reminiscent of grad school, because we'll talk about social ills until we're all fucking blue in the face, but when it comes like time, like, okay, let's go to impoverished areas and donate some food. Like, they're nowhere to be found, Let's find community outreach. It's like, rhetoric only gets you so far. Let's go do the thing.
Yeah, do the thing, or just be about it. It's just, and I love from the beginning of the story this character Ivan. I mean, I know Ivan's a common name in all of those stories from Russian literature.
Ivan Illich.
yeah. But this character, I was happy to read this again, or to go through it again, because I realized in the beginning he already got shut down.
Yes.
He was already in from the beginning. His
colleagues,
the owners of production, they were like, "Oh yeah, okay." So you think that's just like you're gonna just be this like darling of the social classes. You're gonna be able to maneuver in and out, and and they're gonna like hold you in the air. Like he has this this expectation that people are going to react to him, but he doesn't know that it just slowly, like, they see through it right away, and he gets upset. And then, like, I don't know if you noticed, I forgot about this part, but as soon as he leaves the party, which is already getting drunk, he's already on his buzz at that point. He gets mad after going through this whole, he gets on the soapbox about, we need to be one with the workers, and not be these overlords that don't have compassion. And then like his driver goes to a party and speeds away, and he's like, "Damn that son of a bitch!" That poor, why does he? Who does he think he is? I told him to stay here right away, and I was like, "Oh my god!" He just doesn't even see it. Like, he can't even fake it. Like, from before he gets to the party, he's already like trying to control someone lesser than he is.
His first step.
It's already
outside of that, from rhetoric to practice is
failed completely. Failed.
I want to flog somebody. I want to flog somebody for not doing what I wanted to do.
Yeah,
flog somebody there.
I love that, and I think that it's wonderful. Having authors of this, this stature, they're able to the kind of the slow degradation of this person's persona. It was not fast. It's like this. It's painful. He's starting to notice he's slurring, and then he's already judging people. like he's already in that. He's like, just what is this? This wine is not up to my standard. This and that. Well, I guess it's okay for me. It's only one night.
Right, he's judging every like infraction, like social interaction.
Yeah,
and he has like expecting things from certain people, and
already not even just, already measuring up, like doing these things that somebody who's trying to put on these airs doesn't really need to think about. So it's just fake. It's just fake. He wants to. He's in love with the idea of being this like crusader of. And it just never, it just turns to mush in his hands.
Yeah.
Is Greg still with us?
Yeah, where are you going? What are you doing, man?
I'm making a drink. I'm trying to make a drink.
What are you making?
And Leo is out here busting my balls.
Leo!
Naturally. I'm making a Bloody Mary.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm listening now.
This is gonna get off the rails now. I don't know,
hope
man.
so.
I love this story because I'm in I it just makes me so I'm frothing at the mouth at this guy's demise because I've seen it so many. There's like so many people that are like this.
Yeah, I don't know whether to like him or despise him. I kind of I almost like him in a way, because he's so human, and he's like, even with all his flaws and like his kind of shittiness.
I don't not like him, but I laugh at him. This is great. Like
Right.
this person is is the worst, and he had this whole thing set up in his mind, and
I love how the story is written, right? Like when he's just walking down the road, he's in his own head, and you just get those like that stream of consciousness so clearly.
yeah,
And you get the whole you basically get this whole scene in his head about how it's actually gonna happen, and you're like, I'm not even sure if the story's gonna go into the wedding party or not, and then it does, and it kind of just like it replays itself, but it obviously happens in a way more realistic manner. I just was like in awe of the way this damn story was written when I was like, I only read it. It's fucking long, man. I only read it once. So.
No, I don't blame you.
I don't think I have a.
I read
a
it before. I read it a couple months ago, and then maybe a year ago actually, and then no, maybe sooner than that. But then I went through it because Craig made me the copy. But I was like, I was actually going through the beginning more because that was the part. Like it's a bit of a, it might seem a little dense in the beginning. You have these three like corporate guys just resting on their laurels and having this party, these very, this conservative tightwads they don't even want to have a party because they don't want to have the expense of having a party. They're gonna die probably looking at their wallets, and
right.
and it's like I feel like it opens up like very dull.
A little sad for the old man. He worked 40 years and he finally got a car, or not a car, but a carriage. He was so proud, in a house, of course.
He wanted it, but it was one of those people that saved money. Try to have any extravagant life, purchases, and he just waited all his life to kind of get these two things. And usually people like that, like they retire and then they die 2 months later.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was so the backdrop was I didn't know what to think. It was like I said, it was like this a little bit boring in the beginning because I was like, I don't really like any of these people. But then I realized that I was like, kind of do like they were just seemed older, and they were like, okay, we understand your lofty ideals, and you're wrapped up in this almost like this political. I felt like it was like he was such a politician. This
Right.
guy.
They recognize him for what he is, which is like an idealist who's never going to do anything with his life. Really.
Yeah.
He can't get out of its own way. There is a very likable character, right? And the mom, the guy who's getting married, mom, who takes care of him and everything, and it's just so nice,
Oh, but you see, you within all this chaos are some genuine people.
Yeah, that's definitely Dostoevsky's grandma or something. Somebody he really loved the way he wrote that person as like perfect, like basically an angel, a guardian angel or some shit.
He's a shit angel.
A shit angel, yeah. He's literally like taking the shit out of his mouth and taking it away so it doesn't get on the damn couch that the wife really cares about.
I remember. What was that?
I remember back in the day we were talking about Dostoevsky, and it was before I even tried to read anything from him. And like one of the things you, Craig, and Laraka and everybody was like really impressed with was how he handled characters, like the amount of characters on the stage. He was able to write a whole like party full of people and like get into dialogue with like I don't know how many, like 10 maybe of them. It's fucking insane. It's fucking insane.
Each one is their own character, has their own agenda.
Right.
And he does that twice throughout the story. You know, the beginning, there's 3 characters with 3 motivations. And then Ivan walks to the other party, and it's him and the cop, and the spectators who are like watching the party from the outside. And then he gets inside, and there was 30 people at the party, and like 5 of them were like fairly strong characters, that are vibrant and come through. You know, there was Ivan and the groom, who was what was this, like,
passive.
Well, he was passive. I was just looking for his name. These names are
Seldamon.
Yeah.
Dude, it's Russian, man. Forget about it.
Yeah. I'm not gonna. Yeah, I don't need.
It took me half the story to figure out how to say the name, and I've already forgotten how to do it. What do you guys think of that move where he's like, "Let me tell you about this character now for a few pages."
It was.
I mean, you gotta consider this is like before.
I kind of liked it. It was nice.
He's breaking the fourth wall.
It's exposition.
He's like, I'm writing a story. Let me tell you, about this guy, and it worked. Like, especially at the end when he does it with the groom, he goes into like his whole backstory, and it like sets up the ending.
It's even more sad. Like, it's like another his alternate universe going on with that whole dynamic is sad. So it's
it's part of the denouement. You know, it's like it's like Dostoevsky's like, here's this idiot who blunders into this party, and basically it's really the plot of the story is here's somebody who crashes a party.
The wedding crashing party.
Yeah, it really is. He's the wedding crasher. He's not crashing it to get laid. He's crashing it because he wants to
a way dumber reason.
Yeah, dumber reason. But that's us, John. That's definitely us. Like in our 20s.
We want everybody to love us, even though we're very unlikable.
If anybody in the story is you guys, it's John is the guy who writes the progressive paper.
Yeah,
sitting in the background.
John is a lot like that. John is that guy now.
And he would just sit and go,
no,
I smell a rat. Right? Like I thought of you. I thought of you, and I was like, that would be like, and then wait for the opportune moment just to go in there, which is
shut the fuck up.
Yeah, like, this is like, shit. Let me tell you, I have this. This is my favorite part of the story. I mean, I think me and Craig there was a teacher that we dealt with that had this, like, maybe a sentence could encompass a whole story, but in this little paragraph, I believe that it can in ways. But this is like this guy's finally loses his shit, and he says, yes, you came to show off your humanity. You're hindered the enjoyment of everyone. You've been drinking champagne without thinking that it is beyond the means of a clerk at 10 rubles a month. And I suspect that you are one of those high officials who are a little too fond of young wives of their clerks. What is more, I am convinced that you support state monopolies. Yes, yes, and yes. I was like, that's like one of the best takedowns of anybody in literature. Awesome. That was so, and that's what it reminds me of. Like, that's where John would come out of the shadows and
especially on vodka. This guy's drinking tons of vodka. Of course, I wouldn't say it that eloquently. I would just fuck you.
You'd be like, fuck you. You're a fake. But I just love, like, I was looking for that part the whole time because, like, I love that you came to show off your humanity, and like that.
He's so right.
He was just trying to. He was putting on these airs that he was trying to appear a certain way, but it wasn't working. He can't. He's already talking down, thinking down to everyone in the party.
That's the point of the story. Is like, you can't live your whole life with a fucking golden spoon in your mouth, where everything is transactionary. Like, this guy cannot think about life or about people without
he can't
transaction. Even, and by the way, neither can anybody else in his class. The only reason they had that party in the beginning was because the owner of the house wanted to rent the bottom floor to the other guy, to Stefan.
Yeah.
Everything is transactionary, and when you're like, so much of your upbringing paints your pathology, which, by the way, is like, it's why he couldn't just go to that party and have a good time. It's like, no, he has to go there and be treated as a lord, and everybody has to worship him. And I deign to tell you all that I see your humanity. And by the way, like, I wanted to read this to you. This is how I don't want to say stupid, but how, I guess it is kind of stupid. It's how self-defeating his rhetoric is when he's thinking about himself. And he's thinking about, like, here's the best case scenario. Here's how you get through to people. This is on page this is on page 8, I think. Is this where it is?
Wow.
No. Is it page 8? No, it's before page 8. It's before he gets to the parties, when he's thinking about it. He's thinking about whether or not he should enter.
After he talks to the cop, the constable?
Right.
Okay.
And he's thinking to himself, he's like, let me. It doesn't matter the page. He's like, I will ask the man, what is your name? My name is so and so. What is your position? Well, I'm a clerk for such and such. What will it take to make you happy? And then I will let him explain himself. And then I will say, here. And then after that, I can do with him what I want.
Yeah. It's all
like,
control.
dude,
It's all control.
Right. It's all control. The only reason he's doing this is because he thinks it's a more viable way for him to control the people under him.
Yeah.
He's not. And I honestly, I don't know whether this was a critique of communism or not, or a critique of idealism. I think really it's more idealism than communism. But I think Dostoevsky's saying, like, to use a fancy word, the bourgeois can only think like the bourgeois, right? Everything is possession. Everything is, transactionary. Everything is, if I go someplace, I'll be, it will be reciprocated, and it is, unfortunately, but not to his
the way he wants.
Right. And I don't know, it's just all so painful.
Oh, of course.
And that, in lieu of that, because
there's also
I also think, like, part of it's just like he's so lonely. It's lonely being at the top, and I think part of him misses, that, without even maybe knowing it, just the camaraderie that exists in the lower class.
I wouldn't say that, man. I don't think he ever had it. I think he's only known transactionary power.
Yeah.
I think all his relationships are transactional. He doesn't know he's not having any authentic thing. The first time he had an authentic relationship was with the woman who's taking the shit out of his ass.
Yeah. You're probably right. It's probably the most good part of his life.
That was the most wholesome thing that ever happened to him. No, but it was like, the reason that I have disdain for him at times is because I feel like at the heart of it is like this imperialistic mindset where he's like, I'm going to go to these lower, these people, and I could figure out, in their dialect, they may be scared of me, but then they'll learn to accept me, and then I'll show them the Christian faith, and then then I'll show them this. It's like, it's very.
I'll slum it for a night,
Yeah, like it's very like colonize these people because obviously they were, this is he has the assumption they're less, like, they not only that they they have because they make less money, like they're lower than him, like they're a different species of people. And I think that's like, and it's funny that he goes to this party and ends up having these very intellectual, in the recesses of the room, there's like these intellectual artists and people are there that are like, oh yeah, they're like, oh, we see you, my man, like we're gonna expose you, and it just shows that there's a disconnect. Like they say, because they can't be no one there smarter than me because I make more money.
Right.
That's preposterous.
Yeah.
So that's why I enjoy that. And and it goes out to we've heard that whole philosophy, Craig, that each character needs to have an epiphany. I don't think he had an epiphany, honestly.
Well, here's the epiphany.
I'm
So
curious.
I don't think that
I don't
every
think so
character
either.
needs an epiphany. I think every character needs to come to a realization, and he loses his idealism. The last lines of the text are, "They did break me down."
Yeah, they broke me down. So it's like a callback to the beginning, the first scene.
So there's a lot of stories where somebody starts one way, they change for a little bit, and then they go back to who they always were, and that's the story. So I don't think he was ever anything other than this guy who was transactionary. And by the way, even at the end, the groom wants to be sent away to another office, so he never has to think about this again, and he never has to see the general again. He never has to see Ivan again. Ivan sends him away, and he sends him away with like it's funny. The last thing he says to the secretary or whatever is, tell him that I bear no ill will. Like, so he still misses the point. It's like, it's not that you bear ill will, idiot. It's that the groom does. The groom bears ill will because you ruined the party.
I almost putting the embarrassment on him, and it's like, no,
Right.
you're the embarrassment. You were the one who made all this happen. No, when I think of him, if he was really had an epiphany, he would, especially after the beautiful moment that angelic mother was helping him out. I thought like he would, if he had a true epiphany, he would have went up to the guy who worked for him, that gentleman, and say, "Hey, I'm so sorry. This is what happened. This was transparent.
Right.
I didn't mean that." But he didn't do that. He still was like, "Oh, well, I don't have to. Oh, I guess I don't have to deal with that." He's
Do you remember
moving.
why he said he wouldn't give the guy the Christmas bonus or the wedding bonus for gifts? Do you remember why he said that? The guy looked too poor. His clothes were really bad, and he was ugly. It wasn't an attractive man. He had a long hook nose. He couldn't believe the guy was getting married. The guy was so unattractive.
Yeah.
And so he didn't deem to give the guy a wedding gift or anything. Like, I mean, sad to say, but that's often, the best thing to, like, if there is any consideration of the lower classes, like, for example, all right, obviously, you can't just give somebody money. Like, if you give a homeless person $100, really, honestly, okay, let's look at it that way. You want to go slumming it. You see a bunch of bums huddled around a garbage fire in the middle of an alleyway, and you're like, these people are real people. Let me go hang out with them and talk to them. Like, they don't want that. They don't want you to come over and start talking to them. What they want is something.
And the act of it is a privilege. Like you're like,
Right.
they would, they need me. Obviously.
No, it's like what they want is something to eat and somewhere to live. Give them that and go the fuck away. Because they don't want to be reminded of of their stats, like, or of
Christ. It's like a bit of a Christ complex this dude had, right?
Yeah. Not that the $100 is going to solve their problems, but they'd rather have that than you come over and
you're
they
full.
want to be treated like a king.
Yeah. I love that whole.
But that's the thing about life, is your intentions are pure, but your actions often aren't, and the results often aren't.
He was. You saw it was weird. You had this like duality in the story. Like you had the guy that was, trying to in his mind he had this scenario that was going like how everything was going to go on. Even when he was at the party, he was still figuring out he had this alternate reality that was happening in his mind, but also then the real shit that was it was like juxtaposed with this real stuff that was happening, the actual reality, which is like against it. It makes sense. Like
Right.
him, like why, like I love that. That's why I go back to that part. Like you're drinking this. Obviously, they're giving you wine because they know that they're giving him the most expensive shit in the house because they know that his
Not even in the house. They had to go and buy it.
they had to go and buy it, and he's just
It's
drinking
secret,
it.
yeah.
And the guy and the journalist is like, "Don't you realize that you're like this as out of their means, and you're just gulping it down like it's nothing? But they're doing this for you but you don't even see that. You don't even realize that." But I disagree. I just love. I didn't expect that he would shit his pants. But
And
that was
vomit everywhere.
and vomit everywhere. It was so beautiful. I was like, thank you for if this if how could we if he was in if Dostoevsky if he was in a writing group and they were like, we need to have this go off the rails, and he's like, okay, let me show you how this goes off the rails. He's gonna have this guy.
Speaking of like how this
Well,
story
he
might
wanted
have came
he wanted the
to.
real blue collar slumming it experience, and he got it.
Yeah, yeah, he did. He shit himself.
Like he wanted to be treated as a lord, and he got it. He was somebody like cleaned the shit out of his pants and cleaned up his vomit.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, that's the lordly experience.
So
in that case, he finally did get what he wanted. It just wasn't what he thought he wanted.
No, like this is a question for both of you all.
All of that, by the way, very familiar to me and John.
I'm sure.
I do have a specific memory.
Have you ever been somewhere and slowly noticed you were getting drunker?
Dude, all the time. But it's especially like the case when you're with like a new group of people, right? And you're like,
yeah.
I've had that exact thought where the guy was like, I want to say all these great things. I have a speech ready. I want people to love me for my ideas. And then the words just come out just like, dude,
I love you, man. The man of humanity.
No, I get it.
And everybody
so
just
relatable.
mocking you the whole time.
That was the most painful part of the story.
That was so painful.
He was like, I'm noticing. He's like, there's spit coming down my mouth right now.
I'm spitting on the person I'm talking to. I'm noticing that I'm doing it, and I'm seeing him ignore it because he's trying to maintain this my own airs.
Yeah. I had.
Oh my god!
Yeah, like he's like,
Get the fuck out of there.
Yeah, that is so uncomfortable. That was probably some of the most uncomfortable. He's like, I know I'm spitting on this person, but he can't say anything, and he's putting up with it because I'm above him. But I see the spit on his face. When
the prose is so like vivid like that, and it's just, man, it might as well just be happening in front of you right now. Like, this story is written in 1862. It's so dude. Like, it's crazy how related, and from a Russian perspective, no less.
Oh, I know, yeah.
But that type of shit just makes it so relatable, even if you haven't actually been that. Exactly that person, or even a person who drinks, I'm sure could relate.
Dude, I've been in. When I was reading this, I thought of two situations that I was been in where I was talking to maybe one person, and they were, this person was a couple. It was a woman and a man, and I was talking and probably drinking, and I seen the guy go to her, go, get out of here. You gotta get out of here.
Oh no.
Yeah, and I'm like, and I saw it. Like, they don't think that I saw it, but
because you're drunk.
Because I'm drunk. But I'm like, okay, see you around, guys. Have a good day. But I saw it, and I was like, oh man. I realized, and then you start to reflect on what you said and everything else, and not that I get in that mode in public often, but it's still sad. Like, just. When you notice communication that's between two people, but it's about you.
Oh, it's the loneliest thing in the world, man.
Yeah, it's like, oh,
it makes you feel like you're in a what you really are is just a person alone inside your body.
Yeah.
And you're always going to be that way.
Oh my, okay, whoa, wait, you're gonna make me drink tonight.
Speaking of which, I'll be right back.
Yeah. Craig, how did you feel about those parts where he was noticing that he was kind of that not only he was getting drunker, but he was also they couldn't react to him because of his status. It was very I don't think it makes someone feel good, right?
I mean, the whole story is painful. It's painful from start to finish. It's painful in the beginning. He's like, how did you get to that position and maintain that level of naivete is beyond me. But that's also that in and of itself is a critique of power, in coming from wealth. These guys all knew what their positions were ultimately going to be, and not to aspire to anything else because they weren't of the right class. Like,
it's just one of those things. It's always like a determiner for me. Like I'm never envious of people who have a lot of money, unless it's like people that actually it's not about the money. It's more like I respect their intellect. Like I always think like, why if I can't want to be like this gentleman in this story, this protagonist, because
right,
I feel like even if everything he does sucks, even
Right.
like with the money, he's just doing stuff that blows. Like he's just not
right,
he's not going to places that I like to go. He'll be
yes,
doing and talking. His conversations are going to be pedestrian and boring, and all his leisure would be predictable and um, you know this be wrapped up in this whole putting on airs thing. So any like if I was connected to this person, it wouldn't be a good life because everything
no,
you do that would irritate me. Like I really I don't care. Like I like you guys, and it's not like you guys have a lot of money at all. But it was like I would have more
You don't know
fun.
me, sir.
Woo!
Just
but
kidding.
it's one of those, I have
More.
I'm all right. I do it all, but I
Exactly.
mean, what
Exactly.
is
I know what
poor?
you
What
mean.
is subjective?
Well,
Very
then
subjective.
again, yeah, it goes way lower, but
I'm just like, damn.
I'm
But
not. I'm not jealous of them, like because of their class or anything. I feel like their class, and the etiquettes of their class is so stifling
yeah, but there's
that
people out
you
there.
know I don't know if I'd ever be able to like you would never really know yourself. This is one of the problems. People who become rich,
Yeah.
fine, like Eminem and basketball players, and these guys who get really rich, not just really rich, but really famous. It's like I'll never meet anyone now that I'll ever know whether they care about me or they just want something from me or
Of course, yeah.
they're
That's
just putting on these airs, and this is
yeah,
like I'll never know if this is the real them or not.
yeah.
And
No,
so a lot of them, like that's why so many athletes marry their high school sweetheart. Even though they got millions and millions of dollars, it's like all these other people, that I'm meeting don't give a fuck about me. They just want my money.
yeah,
But so I'm not jealous of them in that respect, but I am jealous of them in the sense that if they wake up, tomorrow and they're like, I want to go to Paris today, they can just do that, or I want to go to Kyoto, or I want to go to fucking Venice, or I want to go to fucking
but but this is where I draw my line in the sand with that. Okay, I want to go to Venice with you, Craig, not
yeah,
with them, because
yeah, fair enough.
their trip to Venice will be fucking boring. They'll do
Yeah,
this really predictable.
well,
Assuming that they'll just go
they may
and
they may have the
do,
agency to do it, but like,
but
yeah, you're
doesn't
right.
mean they
Who are
would
they
want
doing? Craig's point is like, who are they going to do it with?
Yeah,
right,
It
exactly.
better
With
be their
other
high school.
people
It better
that
be somebody you met, your mom before, or somebody who you
yeah.
met before.
Like I would rather go with like people I know who have a different appreciation. Like we would go to we go to London and go to bookstores or and actually be into the cuisine and have this thing instead of like these other people would probably do these things that are just predetermined and just the you know the
they'd just
the
be
round.
Americans over in London.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
wouldn't.
So it's like
They'd be rich Americans over in London. They
so I
wouldn't.
don't
They
like
wouldn't
I wouldn't.
imbibe the culture. They
Yeah,
would
because
just.
like that's why I don't get jealous of their ability to do that because them there doesn't mean it's fun. Um,
Maybe that's another point of the story, though, is this guy goes to this party thinking that he'll be revered, but he's not, because he's a fucking bore, you know.
Yeah.
He thinks that he's this wild, crazy man with all these weird ideas, but when he gets there, he's so stifled by his class that he doesn't get up and dance or go party with anyone. You know, he doesn't tell any jokes or liven up the room. Like, some guys can do that.
Yeah.
They can go to a new party and they're fun, you know?
Yeah, and because of his status, he's like the opposite. You know, he's
never learned how to do those things. All like,
stick
again,
in the mud. So he's
all
boring.
he knows is transaction.
Yeah, and it's just like, he came in like chill, and he does, and not that he's boring, but he like ruins it for everybody else, because they're like, but who is this person that's here?
Why didn't he go there and like show up with some party gifts and be like, guys, you know, I'm your superior, but
he really can't. His transactions with people involve. It can't not. You can't look at it from a different perspective. He's just always going to be this people lording over others. He just can't. I don't think he doesn't know.
His thesis is, I'm going to go over there and tell them that they're all humans.
Yeah.
You're all humans to me, just so you know.
I am above you, but I still look at you as human.
Yeah.
Glory to Russia, by the way.
And he thought that they were gonna fawn over him for that. Oh, we're humans? Oh my God!
Thank you,
sir. You're the kindest slave master I've ever met.
I haven't been living in my own body all my life. Thank you for reminding me of what I am.
That was the big thesis. That's the big aha to him. And maybe that's part of why the other guys were like looking at him like he was an idiot in the beginning. It's like, yeah, they're humans. No shit. You know, that doesn't mean you can go hang out with them. That doesn't mean that they're just going to accept you, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's great. It's a great story.
I think so. It's
Dostoevsky was the master. I mean, there's a reason him and Edgar Allan Poe basically invented the short story.
He's really just showing off. You know, he's really showing off his story. Yeah, the 30 characters on the stage, you know, like Greg said, like 5 of which are like real people.
Yeah, you see their faces, and you see how much of a character they become. They have their own motivations. They have their backstories. They're funny in a way. The groom was sober the whole night. Like, I don't know. It's so.
Why was he sober? Because he didn't want to be drunk in front of his master.
Right.
He did a chance, you know. He did a chance to have
fun. He was so consumed with fear that he couldn't be himself. I mean, but he was also had another dynamic going there with that house and how weird it was.
It's a good indictment of just going somewhere new and expecting the special treatment.
Yeah. It's a disconnect. Like, I love the fact that John said that he didn't expect artists and writers to be at this party. Is there like the sweeping generalization, ignorant generalization that yes,
like I said, it's like this unbelievable as this man is. The whole thought process of like what's going to happen when I do this thing is very relatable to me. Like,
right.
Oh yeah.
When I go to this party, I'm going to do this, and they're going to say that, and I'm going to do that, and then as soon as he gets there, everything just falls apart.
Yeah.
And it like kind of follows what he thought, but it's not enough. Like it's obviously nothing he can enact and prepare for, because you know, like you said, Craig, like he's not bringing anything to the party except for this grandiose idea that I'm going to connect with the
he literally
class.
shows up empty-handed.
Yeah.
You know?
That's rule number one of coming to a party, man. For anybody, bring a 6-pack at least.
Yeah.
Declare
But then
you're
you're
gonna
like
pay for I don't know, something.
it's funny how I feel like masculinity plays another theme in this where he um because he obviously he's has this power, but he was a little creepy with the wife and going in there.
Yeah.
He thought because
Yeah.
he goes, well, how did she find he had he was able to put his hand in that relationship they were pawns in chess or something oh let me she has to bow down to me and this and that.
Like the kissing of her, like I'm gonna kiss her forehead and all this
Yeah, it was
weird
all
shit.
this very grooming
It's
That's
funny
some
how all
Joe
the
Biden
nuance.
shit, man.
What? Oh,
Some
so
Joe
yeah,
Biden shit, man. I will kiss her forehead, and I will kiss their daughter's forehead.
like in that subtle, creepy characterization of the protagonist is completely put on the table by by the character who that you read that passage from the writer character.
yeah.
He kind of tells him how it is. It's kind of funny because at that point it's all that shit you're feeling, but that character just says it about him.
Yeah. It was just nice. But do you think it even resonated at that point? I think he was too far gone to even realize that.
Oh, with the character, the
Yeah,
protagonist? No,
yeah.
no fucking way.
He was gone, dude. He was
That's
well,
partially why the
It
guy
wouldn't have
said it.
registered if he'd been sober.
yeah.
Or that's true.
I love the fact that I don't know if you guys caught up on. There was a section where a child came over and just a very innocuous.
Oh yeah, the kid that was mocking him. Yeah.
Yeah, and he and I think that he
Dancer?
was just unaware. There
Your
was
Excellency.
yeah,
He's
you're
just
lucky.
in the middle of every sentence. Your Excellency.
And it was and the
Right.
fact that it's sometimes when you talk to a child, if you even take offense or you try to argue back, it's you just look like an idiot because you're an adult and as a child. And it's you just look like you're on the negative side of things. And I think that's what happened with him. But I think at that point he was way too drunk to even. I think it just bothered him that a child was talking to him in such a way, and probably make more sense. I wanted you to also get your opinions about him shitting himself. That was such a. I love that.
Well,
That was such a funny thing to me. I didn't expect that from a 19th century story.
clearly you haven't been partying with us.
It's a very progressive story. I mean,
Yeah.
Was it shit? I thought it was. I thought he was just puking.
No,
but
he shit himself.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm not sure. Maybe
You're right. You're definitely right. I'm
no,
just
I mean I knew when I read shit, I know it's shit. I was like, oh my god, you went there. I think it said diarrhea or something, or
Well,
something.
the whole way the party ended. So the writer tells him off, and he gets kicked out. And while Ivan is protesting, he's crying in front of everyone.
right.
And he
Naturally.
passes out. He passes out in front of his food, and he tries to get up, and he falls to the floor and starts snoring. And
Yeah.
the party's over. He just crashed the party.
By the way, I kind of wish the story ended there. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah.
No,
that is the action climax of the story,
Right.
undoubtedly, and it takes so long to get to the emotional climax and the denouement. There's another 6 pages of backstory, and you finally get one little tiny scene at the end. It's almost it's tough because the story's already so dense.
Right.
There's already so much exposition
The
that
story, the story would be incomplete if it ended there, but it's not. The payoff's not great enough, I don't think.
nah,
the payoff. I like the fact that he just doesn't learn.
right. That's the payoff.
He
and
just
he still
all the
doesn't
things.
get it.
He's
You're
like, oh,
talking to a poet here, goddammit, or a person who has written a poem. I need more.
Yeah.
I need to be moved.
Right.
I want to cry.
I bear no ill will.
I'm
Like
trying to find a
that's the
part
part
there.
that sticks in your heart. It's like, man,
Can't.
you
Do
still
you know
don't
what
get.
part it was when he
Like he
felt
almost gets
snoring?
there.
He doesn't though, John. Like,
You
if
want
I
him to.
went
Like I
and
really wanted
punched your
him
dad in
to.
the face tonight, and
You
he
might
came
kill him.
home and like your dad had to go to the hospital and pay all these medical bills, and I had like a scratch on my hand. And then I went back to him and made him work on my car again and told him like afterwards, like,
I bear no ill will.
I bear no ill will towards you. And he
There's
had to
also
do it because I was his boss or something. You'd be like, oh my God, this
Really?
fucking absurdity. But we
I
live in
wonder
an
how much of this.
absurd world,
I wonder how much of the context of the story like is going over our heads because of the time period and how much we
Yeah.
don't
I mean, I'm
understand
sure.
of Russian culture.
Well,
I didn't know
I
what a
do the
fizz
counterculture of
was.
Russia. I'm sure it's paint. This is probably on the backdrop of some industrial revolution, and and this whole thing of
Well, yeah, it's on the horizon of communism, and there's a lot of like. I had to go look up a bunch of fucking words still, like the word for incomplete education. There's a lot of French phrases in here. So even being what it is, I still had to look up a ton of shit. But I mean, I feel like the human parts you always get, no matter the context. So it's like, it's the absurdity of me and John who, uh, we learned a part. Well, here's a little backstory, Dan. Um, Me and John learned how to party from this guy named Chris Fernandez, and Chris would. He was like a little bit older than us. He was like in his 40s. Me and him are both in our like early 20s, and Chris would invite us over to his house to just get plastered drunk, and we didn't fight over other people, but so it would get a little rowdy sometimes, but I mean, really more than anything, he just took drinking to the next level. And so when we tried to duplicate that when Chris wasn't around, the fucking consequences were pretty dire. They were for me at least,
yeah.
They were for me a few times too, my friend.
like, and I wish I could have written about those times. Maybe someday I will. But but what about Sadman?
It's just funny. Like it's also the culture of drinking that I think it's because I was always like I drink and stuff, but I'm never looking to like get myself. I have a pretty good understanding of like levels of drunk in my mind, and I feel I'm pretty calculated. But I feel like I'm getting too much. I'll scale back and drink water. But I just wanted to keep like I respected more the Dean Martin drunks. The ones that you didn't know they were drunk. They were kind of like they were very mysterious, and I like that.
I used to say at the beginning of the night with Craig, tonight is John Wayne, motherfucker. We're gonna be a big fool. Like John Wayne, I guess.
Yeah. What
but it never.
I never liked
have that though. We
I never
just
like
went to
I
the
never
end.
liked the whole notion of like getting plastered beyond recognition because I've always think that it's like to me it's like those people don't really drink at home by themselves. And I always think like I've had uncles that they watch the Yankees and they sip on Johnny Walker, and then it's like a cool kind of drunk, and they're not playing beer pong and they're not trying to like give you an inventory list of what they drink and all that. But I feel like uh, someone like the character protagonist in this story doesn't have an understanding of that, and that's why they're like very like a beginner. Like he's if he like tallied in his mind, if he had some foresight and know how much he was drinking, he was already drunk when he left the house. and then
Right.
and then it got worse. And
Still, is
then he
keeping
changed,
track.
and then this like masculinity came out, and I think that it was like a part of it was him trying to impress this wife that he can't get, but this because he has power, he felt like he needs to impress her and impress the party in general. So then he switched to vodka, and he realized he was like drinking it too fast, and then all this stuff happens. All of this like this very machismo way of going about alcohol. And it's like for him, if it would be probably a little more viable for him to say, "Hey, let me hold it back. You know, maybe maybe I should know. Maybe this might not turn right for me."
Don't you love how it's narrated too? Like right before he goes into the party, I just say Dostoevsky, but the narrator says he could have just went home and everything would have been fine.
Yeah,
It would have been he's
yeah.
already drunk, he could have went home, just
Yeah.
took a nap or like passed out on the couch or whatever, and everything would have been fine and none of this would have happened. But no, this fucking
Yeah.
idiot has to go into this party.
Yeah.
It's a restart the night, because something's lacking or whatever the fuck the
Yeah.
reason is we've covered. And yeah, now he's
I forgot about that
basically
part. He
fuck
doesn't
him,
say
by
that.
the way, and it's gonna get worse from here. It's like
Yeah.
it's almost an indictment of the character by the narrator to put him through all this
I feel like
bullshit
I feel
for
like he.
wanting to get drunk.
Do you feel that he punishes him a little bit?
This whole story is about that. It's like it's a classic, like,
What they
I'm gonna
punish-
put this person through hell. It's called a nasty story. I don't know if that came after or before, but it feels
Yeah.
like this was a writing exercise almost. When I say Dostoevsky was showing off, it feels like the idea of the story is I'm just gonna put this character through the fucking ringer in a night and see what I could do. Like,
Yeah.
oh, it's just a quaint little story about him drinking with a couple friends.
No.
No, and then he goes home, right? No, his fucking carriage is gone. Fuck him.
Yeah.
He's an asshole, so he's like, I'm gonna walk and show that guy, that took my carriage away. What to,
Yeah.
and he stumbles upon this. Of course, something happens. He sees the police officer, the party, has a conversation. He's shown to be kind of crazy in the head by the way he thinks through shit.
Yeah.
And then of course the party that's when the story really starts, and it devolves further and further and further. And
John, I totally didn't think about that, but you said what was his motivation for walking again? Was he hoping to be seen by the carriage guy, so the carriage guy
Yeah.
feels bad?
Yep.
No, he was hoping to be seen walking. He's like, I'm gonna walk home to show him, to teach him a lesson. It's like this guy doesn't give a fuck. You're walking
Yeah. He's like, oh, who someone of my stature needs to be seen walking, and then he'll the whole weekend he'll just worry about what my how I got home, and
yeah,
what my thoughts about. It's so like self-absorbed,
And I feel like that's the part where, like, a little bit of the part we're missing about like Russian culture and how the class system or whatever it was back then that we're missing, because there's so much in his head. Maybe he's just a fucking crazy person though. Like, because as like a person today reading that, like, I couldn't imagine anybody feeling that way about other people. I mean,
think about this, John. Though, go look up the video. I wish I could show it right now because it'd be perfect. There's a video of not Jesse Eisenberg. What's the guy who owns Facebook? Jesse Eisenberg played him in
Mark
a movie.
Zuckerberg.
Mark Zuckerberg. There's a video of him standing by his car, like his car pulls up, and somebody comes out, but there's something wrong with like not his driver's door, but one of his bodyguard's door or something. So Mark Zuckerberg's just like standing by his car for like 45 seconds, waiting for his bodyguard to get out of the car and open his door.
Yikes.
Like,
all right,
it's insane. It's so what you're missing isn't the context of Russian, their caste system or whatever. What you're missing is like just the absurdity that rich
Disconnect.
people go to, right? Just to feel like they're the most important person in the room at all times, just at all fucking times.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know, John. I don't know if either of you guys have ever like.
I get what you mean.
Have you ever gone to dinner with a rich person? Just you and like, a couple other people maybe, but there's somebody there who's just like obviously the most wealthy of the group, like just by leaps and bounds. I'm curious. Have either of you guys gone through that?
Dan just stepped away.
Oh, well, I have.
I'm struggling. I've been in like a situation where I was in like a kind of like you're saying at the beginning, in like a group where I was obviously the outcast for whatever reason, like maybe because I was awkward or maybe I was, grew up a little bit different,
But you've never like gone to lunch with like or dinner or something with like the richest like somebody who owned a Ferrari, for example.
Well, who are we talking about here? Can you say?
No, I can't. When my dad was working for Matt, we would all go work out at the same gym. Matt, apart from being the richest, was also the best fighter. So he would run us through the fucking ringer in the gym, and then he'd take us to ER Bradley's or Hooters or someplace, whatever. Someplace. It was always his decision which restaurant we would go to. And we would be allowed to order what we wanted, but he paid the bill no matter what. And he ordered first. And there was like a very strong, you never disagreed with Matt. If Matt told you that the sky was red, you fucking said it was red. Never argued with him.
Right.
But like Matt isn't even super rich. He's rich enough to own a Ferrari, but like when you're talking about that kind of wealth, like you don't even order. The guy who's paying for the food, he tells you what you're going to eat. You go to his restaurant.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I've never been. I don't think I've ever had a situation.
I think John's too of a disruptor to put up with that shit.
Well, I eat sushi with this guy from grad school who does.
Like if somebody trying to order me sushi, I'd be like, "Fuck you!" All right. I'm not in the mood for sushi. If I want sushi, I go to Publix at noon, all right, and get a $9 thing of sushi. Fuck you,
dude. I've been in situations where I had this particular guy, a friend of mine. He's like, "Hey, let's do shots. I'll buy you a shot." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, I don't do shots, man. I'm sorry." And he gets like offended.
Yeah, people are weird about that sort of thing.
Yeah, and they're like, "I'm buying you a shot. You gotta do a shot." I was like, "Man, I don't do. I'm driving." I was like, "I'm sorry, man. Thank you, though. Appreciate it." But like, it's almost like that same kind of mentality where it's like, you can't say no to me.
Yeah,
it's a suggestion.
What would you do if he was paying for the whole tab? Would you still do the shot? If he was like, "Oh, I'll get you a ride home. Don't worry about it." Would you? No,
because he's not. He's gonna nurse my hangover too.
You just wouldn't go.
I don't want to go somewhere where someone's drinking up. Like, if someone's nice enough, like if people who are buying me
depends on how much I like
me a tab, they're not telling me what to drink.
Right.
It's like.
But let's say, would you like Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg's like,
fucking,
I'm gonna take you to this 5-star restaurant, this Michelin. Fuck them. Well, it's not somebody. It's not somebody in the media. It's somebody that you know.
Okay. I feel like it's somebody who wants to do like, a shot with you.
I'm going to order for you, and you're going to eat what I want you to eat. Would you still go, or would you still be like, fuck that?
I don't like it. It feels like a power move to me.
Yeah, it is.
No, I would go and dissent and be like, no, I'm gonna have the lobster. I'm gonna have the most expensive whiskey they have here, Mr.
I don't think. Yeah, but that's not the issue. He wouldn't care. It wouldn't even be a factor. He wouldn't even have to tally that up. Eat whatever you want.
I just don't. Whenever I feel like there's an ulterior motive, I can smell it. And something.
Let's say the ulterior motive is he's like, I want to be your patron, which means I'm not going to pay for your living and everything, but
no, run, get the fuck out of there.
You know what that means, dude? I always think like, you know what? It's never an easy deal.
No, there isn't.
Never an easy deal.
That's my point. Is it's all transactional.
It's very transactional. He'll be giving up more than that.
If I go to the bar with you and you're like, let's do a shot, or you're like, let's do a shot, I'm not going to be like, well, is it going to be Makers or whatever? Like, I'm gonna do a shot with you, but like if somebody's like like what you're saying, Dan, someone's like forcing it down your throat.
Yeah,
No,
like,
I don't want to do that.
because I feel like there's certain actions that are like they have, these on the outside, these ulterior motives. It's just a power move. Whereas I used to know that my neighbor was at a party, and this guy was being weird, and he was like, wanted him to smoke some weed, but he wanted like hold the pipe.
Ew.
And
Oh,
like,
no.
he was like, no, I got it. I want you to do it. And but it was he found out like later in the night that this guy was
It's
like
like Coke or something in it.
well, he wanted to set up a threesome with
Yeah.
him, and it was like for him, it was a way for him to like, oh, I got you now.
Let
I'm
me put it
holding
in your
this for you.
mouth.
I'm putting it in your mouth. So I feel like there's always I get weirded out by stuff like that because I think that the action is not you can't simply reduce the action to the actual action. It's something more.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's when I'm almost like, whatever, dude. But if it was like Craig, like, hey, let's do a shot. I'm not gonna say like, is this a maker's mark? That's different. I'm not gonna be like I'm not gonna like be specific. I'll be like, okay, no,
I also
I
wouldn't
know
care
the
if you were like, yeah, Craig, I don't want to do a shot. I got to drive. I'd be like, all right, cool. I'll do
exactly.
two.
It wouldn't even go that far. It wouldn't.
Yeah,
It wouldn't even go that far. I mean, it just wouldn't even get to that level. But there are moves like you were saying where it's like we got to eat what I want to eat, and you got to drink whatever I want to drink, and I'll pay for you. And I was like, whoa, what is this, man? So what?
It's weird.
Wait till it gets to about 4 a.m. when you like where I gotta. Oh, you can sleep in my house. Oh, you can sleep in my bed, or you can sleep in. Like it's the whole thing. And like you're under the guise of this person that just wants to control you or
And
anything.
maybe that's really what this story's about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's about possession. He even says it at the end when he's thinking about the guy. It's like, oh, if I look at these people as humans and I give them what they actually want instead of just what they're given, then they will really be mine. Then I'll own them in some way that all these other people don't own them, and that
Is actually more like compared to the two owners and manufacturer tycoons in the beginning. I felt like those, at least I feel like those guys were actually nicer.
they are.
They're nice enough not to crash this wedding. That's
no,
for
but
sure.
I'm saying like they
That
understand the system. They know enough to say, hey, no, we can't be around these people. We're not going to pretend to do that. This is the arrangement. They can't hang with us. We can't hang with them.
and more
There was almost
self-awareness.
like this mutual, like a little bit of a respect of the system. Whereas I feel like him,
And they built the system. Why not respect it?
Yeah, but I'm saying like I feel like the
protagonist
protagonist was actually more evil because he was just like, oh, let me put on this, put on this front like I care, but I'm actually going to control them. So I feel like that's the more conniving.
I will control them even
It's a
more.
different kind of that's like the worst kind of that's the worst kind of control where he's putting on this persona that he's actually their friend. So I feel like he's more of a sociopath than anything else compared to those two other guys. Where the other guys are like, "Hey, man, that's the system. We have to do."
I feel like a sociopath would understand a system better. This is just somebody who's
he doesn't even qualify.
Their delusions of grandeur have like spread so far that they've entered this weird realm of benevolency where they'll deign to hang with the lower classes, and just by being around them, like he really thinks of himself as God. Just being in the mere presence of him will make this wedding of theirs talked about forever. It'll be something that they pass down to their children, that he was there.
But he was
so cringy, by the way.
I mean, yeah,
I'm gonna be so beloved. They'll tell their grandkids about this.
Oh my
god!
Yeah, it's very. I think it's a relevant story because I think a lot of people, especially on social media, I always go back to image crafting, and like a person who has means is like, let me do something nice. Let me feed the homeless, but let me have like a camera crew. Let me hire a camera crew to show them. That I have this production that is. I have multiple fronts. I'm showing the world that I'm this kind of person, and so they'll like me more. But in private, they're like horrible people.
Well, you see, there you enter into a weird realm, a weird
aren't.
conversation. Like, so Takesha 69, right, does that a lot. He goes to like impoverished areas of like Mexico and the homeless shelters, and he'll just drop like fucking. He'll just walk up to a shack in Honduras or something, and just hand somebody 60 grand cash. And he'll film the whole thing, right?
You're doing it for them. You're not doing it. You're doing it for you, not for them.
Right. He's doing it for them. Well, he is doing it for them. But there's something to be said for that. Whereas people like Jim Carrey are always like, why can't you just help people without filming it? Why do you have to go film people in homeless shelters? And I don't know. I haven't made up my mind yet whether or not the cost outweighs the benefits. Like, if I'm starving and somebody wants to come hand me 100 grand cash, and film it, like, maybe I probably, maybe I take that 100 grand and and my whole life turns around, and maybe it was worth the cost, and maybe it doesn't bother me too much that I was filmed. On the other hand, you look at all these celebrities who are on celebrity rehab, like China from the WWE, and the guy that was beaten in Los Angeles, Rodney King, is that his name?
Yeah.
They were on celebrity rehab, and they all, like, because of their presence on it, or at least a large contributing factor to their deaths was their presence on it, and the world seeing them at their worst and their ugliest. They died. They just committed suicide. So I see both sides of the argument when it comes to like helping people just to aggrandize yourself. But the thing is, he doesn't show up at that house with like a fleet of servers handing everyone caviar and Scotch whiskey and champagne. Like, he goes over there expecting them to treat him. He's their guest.
That's the first
he
didn't even do it. He didn't even do it right.
You guys can't throw me out.
The circumstance of the story doesn't allow for that. The circumstance of the story doesn't allow for that, but you're also right, because he doesn't even think about it.
Literally, the first
thing what he doesn't do. What he doesn't do is
you can't throw me out. I'm your guest. And so he can't not think in terms of transaction and in terms of the rules of etiquette. He can't do it. And really, however lofty and however relatable his ambitions are, at the end of the day, this guy thought he was God, and he was going to come to this house and tell everybody, reassure everyone that they're humans, and for that he would be lauded and loved forever.
But you gotta realize,
was his big revelation.
It's
the
like
poor are actually people.
It's pretty much, it sounds even more bogus when you think of it like in this time. Like, imagine me, like, Craig, you're having dinner with your family, and what's her name? The director of Pompey State, like, this shows up at your house.
Oh, fuck.
And it's like, hey, how you doing on this?
Or like the dean of the English dean. Hey, Craig, I heard a lot of good things about you.
And it's like walks in your house, and you're like having a nice dinner, and you're a bit taken back because obviously this person's influence on the position of your job, but also you're worried about, like, okay, this person obviously is and have more means than I have, and I have to, like, now I have to accommodate, but they're also showing up with nothing in their hands.
You're gonna treat me as your guest here. Well, Leo, first of all, Leo would kick her out.
Like, the audacity of that.
Leo would just immediately kick her out. Wouldn't even get through the front door. Leo would like see this person and be like, Craig, you have somebody at the front door. Tell them to go away. and shit would just never fly. But I get your point.
No, that's a wonderful way to recontextualize the story for a modern art audience.
Yeah,
that's basically what's happening.
Yeah, like it was
No,
like
it is.
think of it like John's like you're the CEO of the company you work for, the
Oh, yeah.
director, that shows up to your house, you and Laura having a dinner and
Hide the dildo. Why is it on the counter?
Hide this. My wife would be like, move the cat litter upstairs. Oh
Right.
God.
I mean, I have like drawings. Even the one that I have that Craig drew of me, where I'm just like, that's a little like, I don't want anybody to see that unless they're ready to see that.
What if this person? This said person comes to your house? You realize that there's part of you like you're like wondering like who is at my house? Why are they here? But also there's part of you like, why are they here? And they have a lot of influence over, my future.
See, that's a difference, I think, though. Like, I don't think I would give a fuck because if they decided to do that in my head, I'm like, all right, well, let's see what happens. Fuck you. You're in my house right now.
Yeah. Okay, so you're
like,
at exactly.
Let's get drunk. Let's not get drunk. Let's have a beer or something and and start talking or whatever. I don't know. I think it would be like interesting.
But you would kind of feel you wouldn't be as the character that was underneath this protagonist in terms of in working and working who worked for him. You wouldn't feel like there's an obligation to like almost cover all their needs or whatever. You'd be like, well, you're at my house, or I'm actually, if you fall down here, you're on my property. Like if you break your leg, it's on you. Like you came here.
Yeah, it's tough to say, but like
I think that I'd actually think with that I would feel like I would feel like I had an advantage in the situation. Like if one of my bosses came, like the director or some boss came to my house, I'd be like, well, if something happens, it's on you, man. You came here.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's how I feel about it too. At the end of the day, like, I don't know about y'all, but like, I'll find another job. Right? At the end of the day, I write poems. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Like, but that's different. It's different. Like, that's not how it was for this person that Dostoevsky's writing about.
Guy is.
You know what?
Locked in.
We haven't really discussed the mortification this son of a bitch felt on the day after, which was very lovely. Like he was in his bed, he didn't want to go to. He was like, I could fake my own death. Or what do you say? Like I don't need to go to work anymore. I
wanted to join the monastery.
That's the best part. He didn't want to go to work. He's like,
which is something again I can relate to.
Yeah, that's why I thought like maybe the end would be like he would change more.
Yeah. But it was like almost to me. It was like somebody.
It was humbled.
Like this is how the story ended for me. If I was out drinking one night and I was hanging out and I accidentally killed somebody, all right, and then I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe I did that last night, and if they're gonna it's just a matter of hours before this police is to bust through my door and take me away, and all of a sudden, I find out that the place where this person that killed this person, it was like a tornado that ripped through. And they were like 10 people dead, including and amongst those people, amongst the people that were died of the person I killed. And then I'm like, that what that guy did, the protagonist was like, oh, okay, thank God, someone, that thing was taken care of. That's the way I felt like that story ended because he didn't have to address the issue because the person got transferred.
Right.
So he never really had to say anything, which I think is like a kind of a wussy way to
you almost want to just get arrested and like face it.
And it was
now to turn myself in and
he's like he didn't have to he didn't have to even have that conversation because the guy transferred himself.
Mm-hmm.
and he could have rose to the occasion and said, let me talk to him anyway and say that I was wrong. No, he was like, oh, okay. Tell him
he was glad he was leaving. He was glad.
glad. Tell him that I was like no hard feelings. The hell is that?
Honestly, I think that's
the more
what
realistic
hurts
way.
the story, though.
No, yeah, it's totally realistic. But it's very selfish.
No.
He's self-absorbed. He's about
Like
how he feels.
Compare
but
that to
I think
Sonny's Blues, where you get everything. Like, you get everything before the story's over. This story is like, nah, this is just how it happened. The end, you know?
it's not as good a story, but I wanted to say this: like, what's holding this story back, in my view, because I've read a lot of Dostoevsky, is that at Dostoevsky at his best is when, like, he's rooting for the protagonist, Crime and Punishment, and the brothers Karamazov. He part of Dostoevsky loved Raskolnikov, and I know you guys haven't, or I know John hasn't read, but he should, the brothers Karamazov. But he loves Alyosha, and I don't think Dostoevsky ever really even much liked Ivan. Honestly, I think he might have saw some of the idealism of Ivan in himself, and I think that he may have related to him on that way. But man, Ivan's a piece of shit, dude, from the start to the finish. He's a piece of shit with, like, noble aspirations at times. Because really, misguided though he is, he wants a more egalitarian world where people are treated more humanely, and that's the problem. Is, like, how do you go up to a bunch of people and be like, I know, especially when they're at a party and they're all having fun, how do you go up to them and go, I know you guys aren't being treated humanely by your job, and I want to fix that? You really can't. There really just isn't anything in our vernacular that allows for that. Like, you guys can understand it right now.
That's
but
addressed, by the way, in the story, right?
What was that?
The narrator addresses that. Like, he's trying to say something that there is no language for. Remember that part?
No.
Oh shit, maybe you're right. Wonder if I bit that off of Dostoevsky himself.
You bit it off of him. He addresses it. He's covering all bases.
That's what happens when you drink Bloody Marys and podcast.
Yeah, I fucking forget what I read.
I believe it's. I don't know what page it is, but I believe it's when he's right before he gets too drunk. He's like, I gotta say something.
Yeah,
to save the situation, to show them who I am, and the narrator basically is just like, yeah, he's trying to reach for that thing that we all feel, that we all know, but we can't say because we don't have language for it.
You can't, and there is, and he's absolutely right, and we still don't. 150 years later,
I hadn't even thought about that. That's a nice sentiment. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why you could, even though I'm appalled by his behavior and his persona. Like, there's something human about it.
Right, there is something human about him.
We all want to be like this. We all want to be liked at some level.
That's why he's not a sociopath. He's just a fucking idiot, and he's very unlikable.
That's true. Yeah. He's he can't. I think I think it's what Craig said. It kind of it gets on the fact that and I think it's a big theme in the story for me. It's like sometimes people are in love with the idea of something,
right,
rather than the thing itself. Like, I've had people in my family that they're like, oh yeah, you do. Oh yeah, you read a lot. That's cool. I wish I could read a lot, and I wish I could read these great. I wish I could read Hemingway and all this stuff. And I'm like, no, you don't.
And
you
do
like,
it.
you like the what that, like, peddling that, or, like, the image of doing that, but you don't really understand that maybe by doing that it might reduce your life to shit. It may make you look at life differently than you want to. It may make you uncomfortable. So it the idea of being enlightened is cool, but it's not always desirable. And I feel like this protagonist loves this idea of this being able to straddle the two stratospheres.
He wants to be a radical. Is the reality of it. He wants to be a radical, but the
A
reality
radical within his system? With what? Radical? No, but a radical within his.
within his system, right?
Yeah,
Within his system, he is a radical.
But he don't.
But
But no, but no, he's not. No, he's not.
he is.
He
No,
tries
he is.
to be. He thinks he is. He
Okay.
thinks he is.
The narrator calls him a poet.
All right, fair enough.
An idealist and a poet, right?
Yeah.
I think he's in love. He's in love with this notion of this, but his son doesn't get it. He just doesn't get it. If he really got it, he would have bought.
Well,
he would have brought wine.
That's kind of my point. Is if he was a radical, if he actually was one, he wouldn't have cared that he, crashed his party and shit on himself. He would have got up the next day and tried to do it again. And that's the difference between a real radical and everyone else. Like, you think Martin Luther King would have given a shit if he crashed some party and shit on himself? While explaining, trying to explain.
I'm just gonna put that out there. I think his ultimate aim would have been diminished.
To get out to the press.
I know. I think his "I have a dream" speech would have been diminished if everybody was looking at him as the guy who shit himself.
There probably was people though. There probably fucking was people in his inner circle that were like, because Martin Luther King, by the way, was.
I know what you're saying though.
He was cheating on his wife all the fucking time. You're gonna tell me that he's out there partying with all these women and shit, that there weren't people in his inner sanctum who were like, man, you guys hear what Brother Dr. Martin Luther King did the other day? Woo! Holy shit!
You gotta go.
Dude, you're probably right about that.
I guarantee, because it's always the case.
Like, he would care if people knew about it. He wouldn't care if he didn't.
He wouldn't give a shit, or he would, but it wouldn't stop him. I mean, by the way, I'll give you guys a little brief story. I don't know a whole lot about Dr. Martin Luther King, but I did used to teach this essay about how he, when Rosa Parks got arrested, he didn't want the meetings that were being held in that community to be held at his church. He was really resistant to the whole idea, but they politically maneuvered the thing to be all those conversations to be happening at his church, and they were they kind of pressured him into it. They're like, if you don't show up, it's going to look bad on you. And so he's kind of shoehorned in at the beginning, and the reason he didn't want to go is because he knew that what was going to happen eventually happened. His fucking house started getting blown up, and it was all these death threats, people shooting at him, and people did shoot him, going to jail, and all that. It's not desirable to be a real rebel. It really is. It's a fucking hard life, And this guy got his first taste of what a hard life actually felt like. Though that with that hangover and that 8 days of shame. And he came back.
Of course, yeah.
But straightened this shit out real quick.
It all stems back to the fact that he thought
he's not a true believer. That's your point.
Well, he was attracted to the glamour, the surface level understanding of things. It's like someone who wanted, someone wants. I want to, I want an old car. I want to have a Trans Am that's cool. But then you realize you have to you have to work on it all the time, and it breaks down every minute. And so it's at the end of the day, they give it away. But it's almost the people who actually are in that stuff know those types of people. They could smell them. Right. Be like, dude, you just.
So they always get a better deal.
Those kinds of people, they're just attracted to the image of things. That's why this story resonates with me the most, because I've always, the reason why I'm friends with you guys is because you guys are into things. You guys have a deeper understanding of things, but there's also for people, for a few people that actually dig stories the way we all do. There's a segment of the population that likes to think they do, that puts on a persona like they're into literature, but they're really not. They're into maybe the idea of being into things like that.
Well, the real deal is always distinguishable from the phone.
Oh yeah, and you could tell right away, and that's what happened in the story where this guy just didn't. It just crumbled around him.
Most people wouldn't even have gone into that house, though. I guess is my point. You know, that's what made it a story. Is he went into the house? Mm-hmm. He did the thing that he wasn't supposed to do, and
but he didn't know. But he didn't know that.
No, well, you never do. You never do in life.
That's fact. Of his opinion.
It's the wrong thing. But I don't know. It's also a story about, a false believer in radical change.
It's just people out there. I just don't have respect. As I grew older, ever since I was younger, I'm into anybody who's into something. More than that person. Those are the people I get along with.
Well, this man is obviously into Father Russia. Like he believes in something.
Yeah, he doesn't believe in something.
I don't know if he actually believes in that though. But I get your point.
He at the end of the day is just like the guy who knows his position, the guy in the beginning, the guy with no soul, who he just wants his money and his house, and he wants to be comfortable. That's what matters most, his own comfort. That's what he believes in. And that's what most people at the end of the day believe in. I believe in my own comfort, maximizing that. I don't want things to go bad because I might be tested. And this story is about him coming to terms with that, Because here's the thing, in the beginning, Stefan smells it on him. Everybody smells it on him. You're full of these big fucking ideas when you're around us. And we condescend to listen to it because that's what our etiquette dictates that we have to do. But I'm not going to indulge it. I'm not going to indulge you. Mm-hmm. And he just flat out tells him it would break us. And he doesn't even expound on it from there. That's all I have to say, and you can just deal with that. I've fulfilled my social obligation by telling you the truth. And he isn't like most egotists or egoists, he isn't comfortable with being called a fucking phony. So he has to go out and prove it. And I don't know, most of the time when you battle with life wins. And this is a case in which the ideal is so extreme and so ridiculous and so preposterous that life beat his ass fucking black and blue.
Fuck yeah, it did.
Do you think he was so upset because he knew do you think at any point he knew he himself was bullshit?
He didn't figure it out until at the end he knows, but I think
that's the big thing at the end.
That's another thing that
accepts it.
Deluded him and by the way, that's another big theme of Dostoevsky is people not realizing how full of shit they are, like Raskolnikov, Crime and Punishment, or George in Of Mice and Men, who dreams of buying this house, but he doesn't like. I hate to shoehorn that in, but
let's talk about it. I haven't read that shit in so long. I want to read it.
I don't want to talk about it until we've all read it.
Well, I haven't read it in years, but I would love to. We should read that.
Well, we should.
We should be on poem mode at this point. But
let's do a poem.
That shit is poetry.
Yeah.
That shit is poetry. It just takes a little longer to read. It's like a whole book. It's a
100 pages. You can read that in a week.
Shit was 70, Craig. Dan, like, goddamn. That shit's way easier to read than Dostoevsky.
Yeah,
I love Steinbeck. So.
Well, you're right though. We should probably read. We should probably have an off week and do some poetry.
We'll do poetry next time.
I don't want you to hate us or hate me.
Yeah,
I don't actually like doing poetry because I think more's expected of me because I partake in that shit. But
I'm terrified of it. I never have a good read.
Oh shit, that's awesome. No, trust yourself and tell us what you think for sure.
Yeah.
Like, because I don't think you could ever go wrong really with
It's true.
poetry.
It's true.
Especially if you feel something. Like if you actually feel something, then you're on the right
Of
track.
course, yeah.
Even if it's disdain, it's still
Yeah,
fun to
yeah,
talk
yeah, yeah.
about.
No,
Because I feel that too often with poetry and
Dude,
uh,
Oh.
Dan,
more often than fiction.
I gave Ross and Malik a copy of The Sheep Child. I wish you'd read it, but John's read it. The Sheep Child by James Dickey. Ross and Ross and Malik are colleagues of mine, just like Dan. And I was trying to explain the poem to him, and Ross is like this old guy, and he's like, "You read this to your students?" And I was like, "Yeah, why the fuck not?"
That's the type of shit you should be reading. The shit that you don't think you can.
Yeah.
When I taught My Father Speaks from the Dead by Sharon Olds, it's a similarly like disgusting and like awful like subject matter poem, but like beautifully written in just the same way.
Yep.
One of my students, I just remember he was one of the ones I really like. He just like bowed his head and was just like, "What the fuck is this?" He literally said that. He was just like, "What the fuck is this? Why are we reading this?" And he looked up at me and I'm like, "Shit! All right, here we go." It was actually a good class because I had to defend the thing. But
because that's what it's like to lose somebody.
I always like
up your head.
it's easy to fall back though on like how well like a poem like Sheep Child is just so beautifully written. The language is so the word that always comes to my head is like voluptuous. It's like so it's just beautiful. I mean, that's the articulation right there.
It's easier to defend that than the black arts. But
black art's hard because it's like the craft thing you get out of that is
energy.
Energy and like
black art.
It also
I'll send you
talks
both
about
of these poems or all three of these poems tonight, Dan, just so you can look at them.
Right, it's hard to defend when it's just talking about it's talking towards a moment, and it's like the one writing thing is like, oh, energy. Like, how do you teach energy? You know, you have to be in a moment, right? And he was in that moment, and it was a very important moment in time, and he wrote that poem. But there's also like some shit in there that's like indefensible, like.
Well, it's also a very racist and mean.
Yeah, like racist. It's kind of racist.
Very
it is
racist. But so is a riot. Like that's the truth of it. You like, when here's the other thing. Like the other end of Ivan's philosophy is like when all etiquette and class has been eradicated, and what's left is turmoil and chaos. Like the shit is ugly. A country without police, or a city without police, in which the city is burning. That is a frightening, ugly place.
Hey, by the way, Dan, is this the same Ivan Illich from the Tolstoy story?
No,
or is there?
I
think a bunch of fucking Ivan Illiches walking around Russia in the mid
like
1800s.
It's like Ivan. Ivan is, I guess, is the common character. I got so mixed up with that shit. I've read a couple Russian stories, and everyone was named Ivan. It freaked me. I was like, I don't know how to.
I love how like Dostoevsky wrote his own Death of Ivan Illich before. Well, this might have inspired him. I'm trying to look it up right now. I think it was written in like after the fact. It was written like 20 years after. The Death of Ivan Illich was written 20 years after the story. So like, in a way, this is the death of Ivan Illich. Like
I think so.
Socially, he's dead, dude. He's done.
Yeah.
Like nobody's ever gonna look at him the same way.
I feel like the death of Ivan Illich was more of the epiphany was very drawn out and nuanced, whereas like this one was somewhat dismissed. I was like, oh, I don't want to deal with that. Where death of Ivan Illich is so it's kind of sad. I don't think there's not a lot of reflection. There's more reflection in that story than compared to this one. I feel like this character was like, well, I'm glad I don't have to deal with that again. and then it was like, maybe the next month he does the same thing. Doesn't learn.
It was written so playfully, like, and
I love that.
Yeah, like it doesn't matter. Like he says, when you talk about having fun and being playful and writing, this is what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Like the character literally just, like Craig said, the action climax is him just falling face first drunk on the floor, you know. It's a cartoon, you know. It's like, come on.
I
They
think
build him up so
Dostoevsky-
much, and then he just like, oh, he had one too many drinks, and he just falls face first on the ground. So.
But was this so pretty and like delicate when he's going through all this, and this woman is helping him and shielding him from embarrassment, more further embarrassment.
I'll be right back, guys.
And
Right.
just taking care of him like
Yeah.
a child. And like she's the only one who really doesn't see class distinctions at all. It was just someone notices that someone needs help, and they've shown up, they arrived to the occasion, and they're taking care of this person. And like all through that, it's like he's so close to this epiphany. Like, wow, is this what real humanity is?
When I was reading it, I was like, man, Dostoevsky, there's a reason why when you say Dostoevsky, people know what the fuck you mean, because that character doesn't work. Then in the scene you're talking about doesn't work unless she's the one who like breaks the tension early on with the bottle of champagne. Like he just sets it up perfectly, is all I'm saying. Like it's,
of course,
it's wonderful.
Like that character interjects in the story in such a way, but it's believable.
Yeah,
like there's one person at this party who's not like doesn't even understand its dynamics, who's on this level, like this motherly, maternal level, and just going in there and helping somebody doesn't matter, and he's just like, you know, like existing in this very like I felt like that whole part of the story was like this amorphous. I felt like it was almost like a psychedelic dream. He was in and out of it, and being sick, then passing out, and waking up again, and she's doing things to help him. He doesn't understand it, but he's responding at the same time.
Yeah.
Very beautiful. And then then it like changes at the end. He realizes where he is. He gets his like
runs out the door.
He runs out the door. He just can't take it. Once he realizes like he gets his coordinates, or he gets his bearings, he's just like he automatically reverts back into himself.
Yeah. It's
unfortunate. And it's unfortunate. Doesn't even say thank you. Right. He's more worried about his own reputation. He didn't say, "Hey, I appreciate you doing that." And all this. You stayed up. That woman stayed up with him the whole night. And if she didn't stay up with him, he could have died. He probably could have
he could have choked on himself.
Choked on his own shit, and so but he's at that point, once he was able to gain, like he came back into himself. Unfortunately, it's not it was so close. Like the whole time I'm thinking, oh, he's gonna realize there's gonna be a Sonny's Blues moment where the brother, no way, no. Which is
I wish. I wish. Yeah. I mean, the thing is though, like as much as I wish for that, and I wish every story could be like Sonny's Blues, it just ain't gonna be that way, you know.
Especially it's not. It's not.
You know, it's okay to have a little dose of reality, even if it's a reality I'm not super familiar with or whatever. But like the way the story is, it's tough, man. What makes this story timeless is how it's written, and I keep going back to that. Like it's just a fucking adventure, you know. It's a very simple adventure, but it's an adventure nonetheless. You know, like it's a simple story. This guy meets with some friends and he can't get home. That's it. What happens from there, right? And beautifully told, man.
But class, I think class.
Because I have to have a perfect ending, I guess is my point.
Class distinctions change the story.
That makes it interesting. That was whatever the fuck was on Dostoevsky's mind when he wrote that. It was in the story, you know, like he was living through it, obviously. So
if he got that drunk in front of people of his ilk, we think would have made a good story.
He wouldn't have, though. That's the thing. That's what's shown. but I mean, no. Also, like it wouldn't have been. Like he wouldn't have done it just because of that fact. Like he would have lost too much. He had nothing. He felt like he had nothing to lose at that party. You know, really, he had everything to gain, which is what he couldn't see. He couldn't see that he had He actually had everything to lose.
That's a really interesting point. You're saying that pretty much. I can get drunk in front of these people and it wouldn't matter. Well, I don't think I could be in front of these people and have a few drinks and it wouldn't matter, but not realizing that it does matter.
Like right, it does matter. That if you would have restrained yourself and like tried to at least articulate whatever the thing in your heart it was, people would have recognized it. But no, you couldn't even get the words out because you were too fucking busy, you know, drinking cups of vodka after having like 10 glasses of wine, or whatever it was.
That's true.
But it wouldn't have happened, you know. Like that's when I say it's shown, like in the beginning of the story, like he's there and with his, you know, equals, like more or less, and it wouldn't have happened just because their party ended at 11:30, no matter what, you know. And he was kind of drinking recklessly even there. But it stopped at a time when decorum decided it should stop. You know, 11:30 at night. Get the fuck out.
Yeah, of course.
I don't also, but like, say the situation wasn't like capped. I don't think he would have. Honestly, I think it would have. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Like the story doesn't happen. I don't think unless he
straddles classes.
Right. That's what makes it interesting. Or we're not reading the story anyway.
It's like really to put it back in a modern context. If your boss went to your party, but he's still your boss, he or she is your boss, and then they got really blistering drunk, how do you handle that? And then how do you handle that when you have to go to work on Monday?
You just hold it over their heads for the rest of their lives. You know, like, you don't like my performance? It's a 4 out of 5, not a 5 out of 5? What are you talking about? What do you mean? I mean, we can't all be perfect, right, boss?
I think it's a real. I think it's as crazy as it is. I think it's a believable story. Like in a way, I could see. I've been around some bosses, in my life that probably would go. I mean, maybe they wouldn't just show up unexpectedly, but they would be at a party, and then show a side of themselves that wasn't professional. And then you would have to live with that, knowing that people are like whispering, like, "Oh, look at this! Remember this?"
Yeah.
Rodney took his pants off and said this about your wife and all this, and like we gotta like look at this guy. He's like our manager or whatever, but we know this about him. We have this. I think that it bothered him, which is great. I thought that was cool too. That everybody knew this thing about him. They were like, "What?" That was enough for him to want to join the monastery. Like this information looming, like always going to be like in the like.
Speaking of another relatable section of the story for this character is him taking 8 days to just like hide after being. He has anxiety for like fucking 8 days. Holy shit!
Was it really 8 days?
Yeah, it was something like 8, 7, 8. Yeah, 8 days. I'm pretty sure. But he's like, I'm gonna quit my job. Maybe we should let Craig go. He's about to fucking fall asleep.
Yeah, I'm listening.
It's Santa Claus over here with that fucking beard. Jesus Christ.
Well, he's gonna be rocking out pretty soon. Going on that vacation.
Yeah, we're going.
Yeah, what are you doing?
We're going to Orlando tomorrow to that same hotel.
Okay.
Orlando is just amazing, dude.
I miss Orlando a little bit. I was just thinking about it. We might be like driving through there, so I might like just take a stroll down memory lane. Dan, I lived there when Laura went to school there.
I remember you guys lived there when we had the writing group, right?
Oh yeah, we did. Yeah. We did a couple pandemic.
Pre-pandemic.
You guys were traveling, but your home base was still Orlando.
Well,
before
what I mean is like the first one of those that we did on Zoom was from Orlando before we moved.
Okay.
So we moved and then did the traveling. So yeah.
Cool.
But we didn't have a house when we were traveling. We like our lease ended and then
they lived
we
in the
left.
car, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
And then we ended up going back to South Florida for a little while and then moved back.
You live with her dad, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
But Orlando
I was
is
gonna
I do
argue
miss
with
it a
you,
little.
John. You thought that if Ivan had been able to tell them what he told the guys in the beginning, they'd have accepted him. They'd have like welcomed him. Is that your argument?
If he was able to do what?
That was your argument, Craig.
No. My argument is if he'd have told them, if he'd have been sober and told them, like, yeah, you guys are people, and I see you guys as humans. And okay, maybe if he'd have said you guys should be treated more humanely. Like, even, like, there's nothing you can really say at a party where somebody's getting married along those lines that's going to be welcomed, like, the way that he wanted to be revered, Like, there just was no happy ending for this story. As soon as he decided to go in that house, he was fucked.
Of
Yeah.
course.
It was always going to. It was always
thought-
going to end in shame.
Craig, I thought you meant that. Well, I think what John alluded to before was that if the people that he was the mill owners or the owners of manufacturer,
The first scene.
if they like said if they agree with him and they were like behind him,
Oh yeah.
maybe
If
he
they
wouldn't have
agree
never
with him, there'd
left.
be no story. But
If they agree with him, he just probably would have like had a few drinks and went home. But they didn't agree with him, so he had to. But you say, Craig, that he had something to prove
right.
after that. So that's what
That's
he had.
that was the catalyst for the whole story. Is
Yeah.
Right. No, I agree totally with that. Was enlightening when what you said there because I didn't really realize that when I was reading it. But obviously that's why he was like going crazy, like having all these fucking psycho thoughts in his head, as he was walking down the road.
Yeah. But
he's
also,
like,
I think that even the whole thing of him not having a carriage, I think it was a bit vulnerable for him.
Right. Yeah.
And
yeah, but you see, like that in and of itself is, and just his reaction to that is proof that he should have gone in that house. Like those class distinctions do matter to him. It's like if they'd have just driven off of this horse and he'd have been the kind of guy that he was portraying himself as somebody classless and free, and his position was just a position. It didn't define him as a human being. He'd have just walked home and whistled the whole way, like, well, que sera, sera,
Well, luckily
Sometimes
for us, he wasn't that kind of guy.
Right.
We got this.
I'm glad he was a mess because he made it made a great.
Well, I mean, it would have been like other stuff would have happened to him.
Are you objecting to the fact that I thought he was likable at all?
No, I thought that your argument was because I came in after using the bathroom. I thought that you were like, if he'd have told the people at the wedding how he actually felt, they'd have accepted him. And I was like, no, they really wouldn't.
No. My argument wasn't that. I was just mentioning the fact that I thought that's what he thought was possible.
Right. But it was
obviously, the problem is it wasn't proven through him trying earnestly. It was proven through him trying drunkenly, too drunkenly.
Yeah.
And by that point, it was too late. Like, I thought he maybe like could at least. I think what was my point? Shit. I think my point was that if he could actually try to say the unsayable thing, at least attempt to, it would have been recognized as an attempt, and then that would have some value. But you're right. Like, there's no way he could cross that line.
They still all would have looked at him like he had three heads, And
Yeah,
still,
I mean,
the night still would have gone like shit.
You can't like. I think the whole crowd there was in awe of him being there, and it's like the only thing they heard what he said. The only people that were really paying attention to what he was saying were like the journalists. Remember that kid? They were sitting there like, oh okay.
They were paying attention so they could fucking dress him down later.
Yeah. They were like getting ammunition.
I mean, Dan, imagine like if I showed up at your wedding before you even met me.
Oh my god.
But I was your boss, and I was like, I just want you guys to know. I know I wasn't invited, but I really am approving of. I'm really approving of like these mixed relation marriages and these mixed like these. I'm really approving of this stuff.
I'll be like, thank you, sir. I'm glad that
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you,
I'm glad that I get, I'm glad you feel better.
Wait, no, I'd be like, can you say that again into my phone microphone, please?
Yeah.
I'm gonna take your job.
All right, gentlemen. I'm gonna.
I think that they're really adorable. I think that you guys are gonna have some really exotic kids, and
the worst that you could say. The worst.
By the way, it's funny I mentioned Martin Luther King. You know what he said the greatest threat to the African American community was? He said it wasn't the racists. He said it was the well-meaning liberals that were the biggest threat because they weren't aware of their racism. They thought that they had overcome it, and and their attempts to rectify things within the African American community, they actually did more damage than even the racists did.
But that's like that's also that describes the protagonist too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely does, and so it's poignant that I brought him up. Not to stroke myself off too much.
Yeah, you're
God damn, that was a good.
You're so pointy at Craig. God damn.
First of all, you were doing that speech at my wedding, and then you started jerking off.
Oh, what the fuck? By the way, fuck you, dude. Like, what the fuck? Just kidding. And that was actually, I was going to say, it was a great analogy, basically what Dan said.
Anyways, I'm done jacking off. If you guys are done watching me jack off.
No, it's all right. It's like,
go clean yourself up, all right?
Like, get yourself, put on some new clothes. Clean yourself
God forbid anybody's like listening to this who has an essay to write, on this story. They're like, okay, jacking off. How does that relate to this story?
Martin Luther King jacked off.
Martin Luther King was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
God damn. Come on, man.
All I'm saying is there were people in his party that had probably they were probably like, man, Dr. Martin Luther King, God bless him. He thought that hooker he took home was a woman. He saw Jesus in the middle of the night. Just ran out the hotel butt naked. Weird.
This is what happens when Craig has a Bloody Mary, bro.
Yeah.
Get this man another Bloody Mary. I want to see what happens.
Yeah.
Keep going.
You get like the freaking the Vlad talk of Martin Luther King. You won't know how he really was.
Well, I told you, he said it was.
Craig was always a Malcolm X fan. Liberal. Let's be honest.
I'm a well-meaning liberal, so there you go. There I am besmirching them and causing more harm than good.
Oh my god.
Anyways, you guys are great. We're doing poetry next time, all right?
Okay. So that means we're doing of Mice and Men?
Yeah.
No. We'll do that after though. I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, no, I don't care. Whatever we do, it'd be fun.
But
I'll write all over it. And by the way, one of the big critiques is going to be how much better the story is because George and Lenny aren't brothers.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Make sure you talk a lot about LaRocca's feelings about Mice and Men.
Yeah, I'll send it to him.
We should have him on. Let him play the guitar a little bit,
Yeah. Oh man, I gotta tell Dan that story later. Anyways, I'll see you guys later, all right?
All right, you all be good. All right.
All right, later.
Bye-bye.